Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and it is another Fatal Friday, so again it's time for a Fatal Friday video. Now, Fatal Friday is a series where I look back on the videos that I created where I casually went into the Mortal Kombat 1 Kombat League trying to pull off a character's unique finisher, like a Brutality or a Fatality. This week's video is for Havik, who is in the mood to steal some arms, literally disarming people. He is going to be doing that by highlighting the brutality titled, It's a Twist Off. If you land Havik's 2-2 combo while holding the down button to finish off a match, you will trigger the brutality. Now what Havik will do in this brutality is rip off his own arm to beat the opponent while they are down on the ground. And once that barrage with Havik's arm is over, he will rip off the arm of the opponent as a replacement. Which, if your opponent is using a smaller character than Havik like Katana, or a much larger, less human-looking character like General Shao, that arm replacement can look really goofy. Now, I'm not fighting a character with a drastic size different from Havik, so it's not going to be that funny today, but it is still a pretty cool brutality. Now, the cameo character assisting Havik in getting the brutality is going to be the cameo character Mavado, which this pair-up was one of my favorites back whenever I was still playing Mortal Kombat 1, so it's fun to be looking back on a video where I got to use them. On this occasion, the random opponent that I got paired up against in the Kombat League was somebody using Johnny Cage and the cameo Frost. Early on in the first round, everything was seemingly going my way. I believe at one point I had Johnny Cage nearly down to 30% health, and my health was still around 85%. And well, things went a little bit sideways from there. Actually, phrasing it like it was only a little bit is kind of understating it. Johnny Cage ends up coming all the way back in this first round. Now, Havik being put in the corner and then also me getting caught off guard by the summoning of Frost definitely started to stack up after a while. And I only had a fraction of a health point left. Then I was able to trap Johnny Cage using Mavado. I hit my fatal blow, but unfortunately for me, Johnny had 3 bars of meter and he broke the combo. And after that, basically any hit would have finished me off, and sure enough, a low damaging Frost ground freeze was enough to get him the first round victory. The momentum my opponent had definitely carried over into round number 2, or at least it did initially, because I got taken down to about 50% health before I finally got any sort of momentum going. And that really started after using Havik's command grab to set up Mavado's trap and then use that to combo. I ended up tying up the health bars with about 50% remaining for both of us. After that, I did not do anything fancy, I just kind of chipped away at him using low kicks and throws, until he was eventually below 100 health points. After he was that low on health, I tried to zone Johnny out, but Havik's projectiles are a bit finicky, and I did not end up doing a very good job. As a result, Johnny could have come back in that round too, but fortunately, the combo that would have done the trick was one that I was able to break, and I was still able to close out the second round with a throw. So the first match went down to a third and final round. It took a little while, but eventually Johnny was the first person to get a meaningful combo going. It was only worth about 254 damage, but it was the best combo that we had seen so far in the round. Then I found myself stuck in the corner just like I was in round 1. And this situation looked just as bad because Johnny was hitting combos and I was kind of just trapped there, and eventually he ended up getting a pretty good life lead. Although I was able to hit back against Johnny enough to escape the corner, and yet again we were both below 30% health, again looking a lot like round 1. Only this time I was ready for the Frost ground freezing, and with some extraordinary luck, it was Brutality Time.
You have permission to die. Brutality! Havik wins.
Alright, that was a little bit glitchy, maybe a little bit twitchy, but I will take it. And that was the It's a Twist Off brutality for Havik. And we got it against Johnny Cage in the Jean-Claude Van Damme skin. So, I am just going to go ahead and say that Havik is a big fan of Jean-Claude, and after meeting him, he just really wanted a souvenir. Now, personally, I probably would have just went with an autograph, but sure. Magically attaching Jean-Claude's arm to your body works too, I suppose. Anyway, going back to me saying that this win was kind of lucky, or possibly really lucky. Johnny Cage activated his fatal blow as I committed to the 2-2 combo for Havik. The reason this win feels really lucky is because Johnny Cage's fatal blow is a parry, and in real time I was positive I had just lost the first match. I foresaw getting parried by Johnny Cage for about 350 damage, and that was what was going to get him the victory, and I was going to be down 1-0. And it was going to be pretty much guaranteed because I was below 3 bars of meter, so there's nothing I could have done. I could not have broken the combo. But for some reason, Johnny Cage did not parry the attacks. I just ended up hitting Johnny 3 times after doing the 2-2 combo, and that activated the brutality, and yeah, those hits ended up landing uncontested. Now, I have not spent much time playing as Johnny Cage. I mean, I played him in story mode, and I have had to test him out in training mode just to see what was punishable and well, best to counter certain things. That is kind of important considering that Johnny Cage and Sub-Zero at the time were some of the most used characters in the Kombat League, and I absolutely needed to know how to counter them. But besides that, I barely played the character. So if anyone watching this is more familiar with Johnny Cage than I am, like, if that is one of your favorite characters to play or something, please let me know, why did the parry not do anything there? Because I legitimately have no idea why it failed and I was able to beat Johnny Cage. From my perspective, it looked like the Fatal Blow parry should have worked. Well, my opponent has his randomized costumes rotating, so now we have a normal version of Johnny Cage to fight against. But that's kind of a boring explanation for the sudden costume change, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that since Jean-Claude just had his arm ripped off, whoever set up this fight scene had to recast, and now Johnny Cage is the replacement. Only Johnny Cage must not have had a whole lot of time to figure out his lines or the blocking for this fight scene because Havik ends up taking it pretty comfortably. And just like that, I end up winning the entire set 2-0. And thank you to my random opponent that I got to face off against in the Kombat League. All but one of those rounds were pretty close, and I even got the brutality I was seeking out, so that was a fun one. Oh, and to anyone still watching the video, I will be sure to show that brutality one more time at the very end of this outro. That way we all get to enjoy it one final time before we part ways on this Fatal Friday. But yeah, now that Havik has magically surgically implanted Jean-Claude Van Damme's arm onto his body, I think it's a good time to go ahead and wrap up this video. Just thank you for watching it up to this point, and if you enjoyed it, feel free to check out the other things I have on the Thor's Entertainment channel. I have plenty of other finisher videos for Mortal Kombat 1 under the Fatal Friday playlists. I also have playthroughs of various Mortal Kombat games, and I also just wrapped up doing videos on the remake of Resident Evil 2, and I also have playthroughs of the Resident Evil 1 remake, so if any of that sounds interesting to you, feel free to check those out. And with all of that out of the way, thank you again for watching the video, take care, and hopefully I see you next time.
You have permission to die. Brutality. Havik wins.